Hey everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. Every Friday we get together and we have a look at the top 5 something, normally to do with Blood Bowl. And we're continuing our quest to find the best third-party alternative teams out there for your tabletop. And I heard that you like star players and stunties, therefore Halflings is the team for you. And we put a post out last week and we put together a pretty great list of the top 5 Halfling teams. But it's not just 5 teams. We've always got some honourable mentions as well. Now, we put a post out last week, this week, the beginning of the week, some week, I don't know. I went to Milton Keynes this week, and now it feels like many, many, many weeks. There were some great mentions, some really great suggestions, and even some people out there suggesting some honourable mentions. And there's a few teams that we do have to flag up that didn't quite make it into the top 5. The top 5 was put together based on my version, but mostly based on the amount of votes and stuff that it got in the comments. So the first team that gets an honourable mention, and this one, this is one of Trips' favourite teams. This is the Crossed Lances Leprechaun team, and it makes such a good Halfling team. It's kind of designed for a Halfling team, but they've got cool positional models there, so you can use them as a Goblin team or even a Dwarf team, which is really, really, really cool. And when the team is fully painted up, I wonder if they've got any examples. It is a ton of fun. Now, it's not to everybody's liking, it's not to everyone's taste, but I think as far as cartoony teams go, it's pretty well executed, and you can pick up the files for this on my Mini Factory for not a huge amount, $19, and as well as that, you can probably get it printed on Etsy for not a lot as well. So our first honourable mention goes to St. Patrick's Angry Leprechaun base team, and then I think we got another honourable mention here, which is a surprise. So the Torchlight teams tend to feature in our top 5s, but they didn't quite make it this time. The Bag End Buttercups are the Torchlight Halfling team. Have we got any more pictures, or just the one picture? Just the one picture. I should probably print this off and do a print to pitch for this team. Now, it's got your classic Torchlight cartoony bits. The treemen look a little bit on the kind of small side. I know it's quite a popular team. A couple of people mentioned this one in the comments, and I think it's a fair shout because actually Torchlight do some great cartoony stuff. The ankles make me nervous as you like, especially after having printed off their Lizardman team this week. Very cool little team. But, oh, the chameleon skink that I've painted green is invisible because of the green screen. That is apt. Anyway, Torchlight have got a little halfling team, and it's pretty well done. So, as you would kind of expect with Torchlight. Anyway, I think, is that all our honorable mentions? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On to the top 5. At number 5, we've got Black Scorpion Miniatures, their Halfling team, which is just called Halfling Squad. So this team comes with 10 Halflings, plus 4 additional random Halflings and 2 Treemen. The Treemen are multi-part models with 40mm bases, Halflings supplied with 25mm bases, resin miniatures. Alright, so 14 Halflings, 2 trees for £40. Black Scorpion Miniatures do just some excellent resin quality models. Now, I guess the first thing to flag up about this team is it is beautifully sculpted, and they've gone with this kind of... Can we flick between? Is there, what is wrong with these pictures? Why is there only one picture of a flipping team? Okay. Enhance. There we go. Let's go full CSI. Right. They've got a cool Bretonian vibe to them. Now, I know if you've listened to the podcast that comes out tomorrow. So if you joined us on the podcast, on our Patreon Live Contra podcast, you would have heard me kind of talk about how I have a hangover of hatred for Bretonians after playing against Ians with my High Elves in 6th and 5th edition Warhammer. But I love the style, and Fanath have just dropped a really cool Bretonian ability style, and now we're looking at these Halfling teams, and you know what? It's such a good motif, and it's such a good kind of palette for painting a team that I love the style of these. Now, I've seen this team in person. Craig has it, one of our regular gamers, and it's wicked. The only downside is that they are going to be smaller compared to the current Blood Bowl, because this is very much sculpted in like the last edition. So your halflings are going to be small halflings, Actually, it's not the worst thing in the world. The halflings are supposed to be small. The treemen, though, are a massive strength to this team. They are just some of the best treemen out there. There's a lot of cool treemen models, but actually, I think we saw a couple of this team at Beachhead, or at least those treemen, because they're just so solid and so good. But ultimately, I love the variety of hats and helmets that it goes with the team. It's just a really cool team. And for £40 for 16 models, it's really good. You will have to find a way to identify your hefties and your catchers. But again, I would probably say use the helmets for that. So there's two guys with like puffy musketeer kind of helmets. Catchers right there. The guys with big old Saleh helms are your hefties. Not that people run hefties all that often anyway, right? So, very cool team, and that is number 5. Number 4 is a team I had never seen before, and I love the people who make this team. So this is the Ram Raiders team from Warp Miniatures. Warp Miniatures, I've backed and I've supported on Patreon or my Mini Factory for a good couple of months. I love their kind of cartoony fantasy style models. The little kobolds, I've got like some really they're cool little crowbar. They just do really good sculpts. I had no idea that they had done a fantasy football team that is a halfling team. And I tell you one thing that I think is absolutely brilliant about this team is every one of these sculpts has got so much character. And I know that part of that is down to the painting, but that is every single model here has got a little bit of an identity. And especially when you're playing a stunty team, right? Your little guys, they tend to have no personality until they do something special. If you watch the Bonehead Championship, I think you know that we didn't name any of our stunty players until they did something good. Like a snotling is a snotling. A halfling, there's a halfling. Until that halfling scores a touchdown or causes a casualty, the halfling is just a nameless halfling. Every one of these models is absolutely begging to have a story. And that is, I think the difference between a stunty team and a regular team. A regular team, if you can have a team made of every model that looks like it could be a star model on its own, that's what you're looking for. For a stunty team, if every model looks like it's waiting for an opportunity to start building its own legend, it's so good. I mean, just think about the Bonehead Championship. We had Trumpets. He's right there, judging me. And just Trumpets, you know, sock hat. They become things. They become players with just a little bit. And there's some really cool ones. And I mean, they've done a great job of knowing them. Jojo, Polite, Michael, Go for the Balls, Jeff, Billy the Mitt, Jock, Red Annie. It's just wicked. Now, the team comes in at £65. It's fully featured, I think. So, 16 players. There we go. Again, you're going to have to kind of balance out the positionals and making it clear if you're using a hefty or a catcher. But with so many unique sculpts, it's going to be fine and pretty easy for you to kind of be like, my catchers are the two guys with the balls, or the hefty guys are the ram rate. I don't know, just paint your bases or something. Give them different coloured hats. And ultimately, the treemen are just fantastic as well. I think it's definitely, you've got to mention the treemen, because Warp Miniatures has got a multi-part kit for this, as I printed a bunch of treemen. And they look like this, and it's really, really, really cool. So I love this team. I surprised that I'd not seen it. You know, Warp Miniatures, they do great stuff. And now I'm going to go see if they've got other teams, because interesting. Anyway, number 4, Warp Miniatures. Which brings us to number 3, and that is Willy Miniatures Halfling Team. Imperial Halfling team. So this team comes in at €80, 14 halflings and 2 treemen. So another 16-man team here, 16-player team. And what can we say about this team? Now, this got a fair few votes, I think, and I think that's very reasonable. Again, is there only one picture? There's only one picture. Oh, it zooms in ever so slightly. That's good. Anyway, we're going to zoom in ever so more. So, again, you've got this kind of Bretonian motif. And I think that probably harkens back to, like, the dream of having, like, a D&D or an RPG halfling knight. You know, halfling something. Halflings are just, like, they're just the fantasy settings underdog in everything. Lord of the Rings, Willow, every RPG ever, right? Halflings are your kind of underdog. They're the underdog of good, whereas goblins are the underdog of bad. Although snotlings are the supreme underdogs of bad. And having them just be knightly and have stuff and have armor is just brilliant. It's like in Dresden, where you have Toot Toot the Fairy, where he's got like a little helmet and a shield and a sword. It's just awesome. But the thing is with Woolly Miniatures, we know that the quality is good. Very good. You know, the sculpting's great. And they do some seriously good treemen. So these treemen are tree trolls. The size of them is hefty. We've seen this team at tournaments before. At least we've seen the treemen at tournaments before. Because these are kind of just some of the top treemen out there. And then it's backed up with one beautifully painted yellow and green. Big fan of that. But again, every one of these sculpts has got character. And from the looks of it, some of them have got actually sculpted numbers on, which is remarkably useful. But again, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different halfling models. You've got some models there that can be catchers as well. So you've got one guy with a ball, one guy who's actually got a catcher's mitt. You've got some other guys. It's not going to be too difficult to differentiate your positionals. And the whole team is just really, really, really cool. I don't think I'd really seen this before. I'd seen the treemen, as these treemen tend to find their way into many, many, many teams. But I love the team overall. And alright, €80 is quite expensive, but it is a full team. For Games Workshop, you need to buy 2 treemen. I don't know how much the treemen are now. 15, 20? Let's say they're £20 each. That's £40 for the treemen, £30 for the team. Games Workshop team, which is very good, £70 with 2 treemen. This, £80 with no cloned miniatures. I really like it. Woolly Miniatures, number 3. Which brings us to number 2, and it is Punga. So, Punga Hungry Piranhas. Yes, it is a pirate-themed team, because it's Punga, and Punga Digital they just execute really well. We've got the Barracuda Orc, the Sea Orc team that's dropped this month on their Patreon. And you know what? I'm fine with it when the models are this good. This is absolutely one of my favourite Punga teams, and it got a ton of votes out there in the comments, and I'm not surprised. What we just talked about is having every single stunty player just waiting for an opportunity, and you've got it. And even though the pirate theme is featured here, definitely in these models, there's a lot of it which is just kind of generic fantasy as well. So the tricorn, bicorn hats could just be standard fantasy, and the armor of the the heavy guys has got a bit of plate on him. Oh, we're missing a picture. We're missing a picture for this team. There's a couple of players there which just look like generic Games Workshop fantasy halflings. It's really good. And the full team has got your star treeman. You've got the pie girl. You've got the ram dude. You've got some cool you've got the wizard, you've got the chef. It's really well done and really well executed. But if we look at this as being the core of the team, they're beautifully sculpted. The halflings are really good. And I've got to be honest with you, the treemen are brilliant. I was really surprised. I thought the treemen they look really cool. I like the way they've done this. It's not just a standard tree man, it is a boatman, which executes the theme brilliantly. And as you know, I'm a bit of a lazy boy painter. I can tell you from experience that actually both those trees, brown contrast, and then you'll see all the detail that comes out that you can then pick up. You've got barnacles, starfish, and each of the kind of halfling players have got a ton of little bits on them that you can choose to paint if you want. I was really, really smitten with this team when it first landed and actually did a printer pitch. And I can tell you that it is really, really, really good. And hey, currently we've got a license to print Punga teams. So if, we're the only place that can do it. So if you don't have a 3D printer, you can get this team from us. And I'm not shilling. I really like it. It's a really good team. And that is Punga number 2. And number 1 is going to be the Snoog team from Grebo. Again, this one went with the votes, and it was close, but clear, as they say on the Limited Resources podcast. Snoog team bundle is $89.99. And I think, we did the Kickstarter review for this when it launched. What day is it? What year is it? Last year, I guess. We've seen the models. We showed off the models. I've started painting some of the models. They are really, really, really good. But It's Grebo, so they've got a load of accessories and a load of different options. So what I want to do is make sure that we're representing what this really is. So €90, 2 trees, 2 burleys, 2 catchers, 12 halfling hunters. So that's 16, 18, and you get a hedgehog ball. So that's wicked. Anyway, the reason this team is so popular out there is, I think, popular with me because they've got more than one picture of the team. When we did the Kickstarter review video, it was so cool to get to look at these models. And the amount of detail and love and attention to just providing some outrageously characterful halflings has absolutely come through. And you've got all the different positionals. They've gone with like a jungle tribe theme. It's heavily influenced by Futurama. The guys love Futurama. I love Futurama, so I'm on board with that. But as we flick through, you can see that there is a variety of everything. A variety of sizes and shapes and hairstyles and frogs. And it is just an absolute painter's delight, which I think is what a couple of people put in the comments. I know that Stuart Shelley did. It was like, this is just such a great team. The hedgehog ball is so cute. Look at that. Good job. And the team is absolutely gorgeous. The paint job they've done is gorgeous. The treemen are brilliant as well. They're probably about as big as the Games Workshop tree man, which, you know, for us on the channel is a bit on the small side for a big guy. No, I'm joking. The treemen are really perfectly sized. They're a bit bigger than Games Workshop ogres. They fit on the pitch beautifully, which a lot of treemen, especially the tall, lanky ones, like I use the Lord of the Rings one in my Wood Elf team, can be a bit of a challenge. These ones are good to go. These halflings are just really well sized. They're a little bit smaller than the Games Workshop ones because that's what they're trying to represent. And the fact is that this team got the most votes in the top 5 comments, and I think it's hard to argue that this is the most detailed, sculpted, and most heavily themed team with a couple of really chunky, angry looking trees. It was beautifully put together and is available now. But that is going to wrap up the top 5 here. And it feels like every time we do one of these top 5s, we kind of have some really good themed alternatives, and that's what this is all about. It's about finding the kind of a different team. The Games Workshop Halfling team, probably should have said this at the beginning of the video. It's so much fun. I have 2 of them. I've got a standard one, and I've got the Chaoslings from 7 Super Series because with Chaos helmets, head swaps. Because it's just great. They're just great. Stunty, it's so much fun. They are just underdogs. And then you kind of make them special, but it's really funny because they're not that special. And kind of as we flick through these teams, you know, we've got Grebo knocking out of the park with this kind of Futurama-themed team of jungle, like, tiny Amazons, which is just amazing. And then, you know, you've got the St. Patrick's Leprechaun version. You've got the cartoony Torchlight version, which is really good. You've got the kind of classic Bretonian version here, and you've got some heavily armored ones from Warp miniatures and more Bretonian themes. And it's kind of, there's no straight up Games Workshop clones, but there's different stylized things that can represent the halfling team, which is perfect. And on top of these teams, there's the Grebo Cutimals. And because the halfling roster is so simple, you need 2 big dudes, you need 10 little dudes, and 2 sets of 2 slightly different dudes. And it just works for anything. There are so many kits you can bash. So many. Like I'm really tempted to do like a kobold team, although that would probably be more like a skink team. But if you want something to represent halflings, it's really quite easy to do, which means that these third-party sculptors can just go, right, what would a seafaring halfling team look like? Well, you know what? I don't think they could have done a better job of making it look like this. You know, you've got a pirate hook, you've got a little rat on his shoulder, the bird catcher is just fantastic as well, which is a shame it's not featured on this picture, because it is absolutely brilliant. The catchers for the halfling team from Punga. There's 2 different versions. One of them's catching a dude, like one of them's, it's this picture here. No, they don't have it. Oh, flippity flop. That is frustrating. Anyway, doesn't really matter. The point is, halflings are a really great fun team, and if you run them without stars, your little guys are going to have a lot of character. If not, they're just going to be a really great backing cast for you to be able to run whichever star players you want, which is its own fun thing, because then you get to choose a cool team to paint, and then some great stars to run with it. So think of the Halfling team as the bread of the sandwich, except everything we've just shown you is like the fancy top shelf Waitrose bread that you're like, I don't even know what that is or why it's £4, but I know I'm going to love it if I eat it. 5 great versions for you here, and a couple more to boot. So I'm sure we've missed some off, and I'm sorry if we have. I just, flipping love all these teams. God, I do like Blood Bowl. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments whether you agree or if we've missed a team out, because I'm just super impressed. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.